What's up, y'all? RSB77 here. Wanted to make this video about. I wanted some of my friends to see what I went through and what happened to me whenever I lived in Georgia. There's a video called My Life Story on here. Go check it out. So I'm going to start off with this. Sorry if I'm speaking weird. I got a spacer in my mouth where my top teeth won't collide to my bottom teeth. And, yeah. So, when I lived in Georgia, I lived on a 50-acre farm, non-living conditioned house, no AC, no heat. All we had was heaters, was a wood burning heater, and a big ceiling fan, and that's it. I had a dirt bike, a 79 Cub Cadet. I had a 2000 Honda 300EX. And pretty much rode them every day. Whenever I lived with my granddad at the time, just before I moved up here to Tennessee. I lived in the backwoods. The town is about 15, 20 miles out. And up and down my road was farms. I had friends, I had my cousins down through those roads. I had everybody almost I knew. My granddad, whenever I made one tiny mistake, he would get mad, throw a hammer, whatever he could find around him. He's a diesel and gas mechanic, and he owns a grading business. Whenever he got mad at me, he would pick up like a spray can or whatever and just chunk it at me. And I would always get so many bruises. Anytime I went to school, I never wanted to tell my teachers, my principal, my guidance counselor, nobody. Because if I did, they would tell my granddad, and then he'll beat me. I growed up getting abused, harassed, threatened, shot at, and chased. Before I moved up here, May 1st, got off the bus, and my granddad was mad at me because I messed up his tractor. I didn't mess it up, my brother did, because he likes to do donuts in the tractor, like 2 brake pedals, hit 1 brake, do a full 360. And got off the bus one day, walking a mile down my road to go to my house, and he just starts beating me and shooting at me with a 30-30. And then ran to my 4-wheeler, and I took off. I've grown up in a bad way, not a good way. Grown up in the worst way, bad way possible. And once I went down my driveway, I took a sharp left, and I stayed on the pedal. I stayed on the throttle on that 4-wheeler. I stayed on it until I saw my motor smoking. And I never let go. I never did. I was drifting, sliding sideways. My granddad's like 800 foot behind me, and a little 4-door Ranger just trying to get up to me, shooting out the window with a 30-30. Once I hit that pavement at the end of that gravel road, 10 miles down, swung sideways, I went straight to my granddad's. My granddad owned a property, my dad's father, this is my mother's father that I lived with, on my Papa Ricky's property. He passed on my birthday of 2017. I turned 9 that year, on that day. I went over there with a full tank of gas on my four-wheeler. I lost my granddad. He couldn't find me. I went down that gravel road and I went down to my granddad's. And my granddad's property was still for sale. And I sat there on the end of that daggum driveway. Gate closed. And I sat there and I cried until I saw a police officer pulled up. I had some family members down the road and I told them that's where I lived, when I never did. And the sheriff took off. And I sat there at the end of that driveway on my past granddad's property, sitting there praying, talking to my mother, talking to my granddad, people that had passed in my life. Got on the four-wheeler, went down that road, met some family, got filled up again at the gas station, and I took off. I was 45, I was actually 35 miles away from my house, my mother's dad's house where I lived. The abusing 40-year-old pot smoker. I didn't come back 2 days later. Until 2 days later. I slept on the side of the road in the woods. And I would always go fill up with a tank of gas. I had about $50 in my pocket. Gas was $1.39. My gas tank would only hold 5-6 gallons. Pulled up next day at around noon. And he asked me where I'd been. So I told him. He pretty much got upset about it, because he knew what he done. But he didn't care. Last day of school of May 16th last year. Got off the bus, head to the house, fix me something to eat. And I went to go throw a party that day. Had my cousin over. Had my buddies over. And we went mudding that night. We had barbecue. The grown people, they had beer and whatever. We had fun that night. Snorkeled my four-wheeler. Light went out in the car. But, man, I had fun that night. Got back at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Woke up the next day. Granddad's just sitting there smoking his pot. Gets mad because I forgot to close his door on the Ranger. It was cracked open. He forgot to close it because he was the only one that was in that truck. Gets mad and he starts raising Cain. Got on the dirt bike. Got on my 250 Honda. And I ran like the wind. Never came back until the 20th of May. And that's when the devil came out. Took my granddad by the neck and wanted to beat me to death. May 23rd. Trying to hooked up the bush hog on the tractor. I can't get the shaft hooked into the back of the axle on the tractor. I get mad, storm off to the house, and I sit down, and my granddad asked me why I was mad, and I was telling him, and I accidentally had a little voice in me. And I didn't mean to, and what do? Got the 30-30. Tried to get on the four-wheeler. Shot the motor about 10 feet. Bullet ricocheted and hit my daggum dirt bike tire. And then I just quit. I just sat there and quit. I let him beat me. I didn't care. That day I walked over to my next door neighbors, and they known me pretty well. I known them my whole entire life. I asked my best friend Linda, I said, I want to call my grandmother. I want to get out of here. So, called my grandmother. And then she said she would be there by the next day. But I'm still getting beat. Still getting beat. I had never ate for the past 3 days. So, got up here and got my life together. And I blocked the people that I quit talking to. Because I didn't want to talk to them no more. Because I've been doing the right thing. I got my life straight. I'm happy. I'm living the way I want to. I got a job. Having fun. I have buddies that I can go see. And everything. But it's been 12 years since my mother had passed. And it's hard growing up without a mother. And it sucks. So this is another story that I really didn't want to tell people, but I'm telling y'all now. So, I'm going to be making a video tomorrow or the next day. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell.